Ah, another beautiful and relaxing day in the clinic. Let's see what the mail has for me. Bills, malpractice lawsuit. Bah, nothing interesting. Wait, there's something different here. An anonymous letter. I know who you are. You are a fraud and I'm going to unmask you. This seems like a job for a superhero, but why call a hero when I can become one myself? Hello dear patients, your favorite doctor here, Dr. Plague, and right now I'm brewing a potion that will grant me amazing powers. But while we wait for it to be ready, why don't we embark on an adventure alongside the trendiest superhero today? That's right, I'm talking about our friendly neighbor Spiderman. I wanted to take a look at his best game to date, but given that I don't have a PS5, we're gonna play Ultimate Spider-Man instead. How's that for a swerve? When looking at Spider-Man games, many come to mind for being pretty decent or good, like Maximum Carnage for the SNES, the duology of Spider-Man games for the PS1, the movie tie-ins for Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 1 and 2. How come people don't talk more about Spider-Man 3? I mean... We also have the Beanox exquisite masterpieces, Shattered Dimensions and Edge of Time, and most recently we have the Insomniac games, Marvel's Spider-Man 1 and 2 and Miles Morales. Oh, and Web of Shadows also exists. But there is one game that is often overshadowed in these conversations, and with all the recent hype from the appearance of Venom and his 19 inches in Spider-Man 2, I think it's fair to talk about a game that not only allows you to fight Venom, but also play as him. Ultimate Spider-Man was released on September 2005 for a wide variety of consoles, but we're gonna stick on the console version for now, and was published by Activision and developed by Treyarch, the very same studio that developed the widely beloved Spider-Man 2 movie tie-in. Everything's coming full circle now. So, let's start the game and see if this is worth the reputation as one of the best Spider-Man games ever made. The first thing I have to say is that I just love the cutscenes in this game. They are so stylish and arranged in order to look like comic book pages, combined with the game's cel-shaded graphics makes for a perfect combination. The game's story tells us that Peter Parker and Eddie Brock, whom we will refer to from now on as the Chunky Guy,
Hey, I'm the chunky guy.
are best friends and find out that their parents work together to create a cure for cancer. They find the substance made for this purpose, but then Peter steals it, getting the symbiote black suit and therefore releasing it into the world, who takes advantage of Mr. Chunky Guy finding out about Peter's misdeed and takes control over him, transforming him into Venom. The first playable scene we get is a battle with Venom, and the combat is just as button mashy as you could expect, but whereas the Insomniac saga you have a stylish dodge, here you literally have to jump 1,000 meters in the air to avoid the attacks, so that's not very intuitive to be honest. But oh well, it works just fine I guess. After the fight with Venom, you're free to explore the city a bit in a short traversal tutorial. Hell, even the tutorial messages and the mini-map look straight taken off from the comic book page. That's attention to detail right there. The city looks fun enough to swing around so far, and the web-swinging mechanic works pretty well, but does feel a bit clunky compared to the butter smooth swinging from the Insomniac saga. After getting your suit back from Mary Jane, you swing to a confrontation with Shocker, which is shockingly easy, and then you get introduced to city events, like stopping random crimes on the street and races across the city. One interesting detail is that, in order to defeat the street thugs, you have to pin them down using your web after you defeat them, otherwise they will stand up again and continue fighting, which reminds me a little bit of the arrest system in LEGO City Undercover. This game was way ahead of its time. One thing I noticed while swinging around the city is that the popping is just atrocious. I don't know if that has something to do with me playing on an emulator or if the normal experience of the game is just like that, but it certainly doesn't help the gameplay. Hey, this is future Dr. Plague. It turns out that it was indeed an issue with the emulator. There's no pop-in when playing in original software. Let's continue. In order to advance the story, you have to complete a certain number of city events, so the game gives you the freedom of exploring the city at your heart's content and looking for the different collectibles included in the game. Once we move on with the story, we see Venom devouring an innocent bystander, and you get to control the symbiote menace. Venom's movement is widely different from Spiderman, given that he doesn't use symbiote webs to swing around, but rather jumps really high to cover great distances, a la Hulk in Ultimate Destruction. So we start moving around and... Wait, what the hell happened? My game froze. That's weird. Let me try again to see what happens and... You gotta be fucking kidding me. Once again, the wonders of PC gaming never stop to amaze me. Oh well, time to go for the old-fashioned way of playing it on the Wii. And if you wonder why didn't I do that from the beginning if I hate playing on the PC so much, the answer is very simple. You have no idea of how messy it is to get the Wii connected to the capture card. We arrive to the same point as before and, won't you look at this, no freezing on sight. After beating some thugs, you get introduced to Venom's main mechanic in the cruelest way possible. The Venom suit is constantly draining your health, so you need to feed on people, and the developers didn't think of a better way to let you test it out than having you feed on an innocent kid. Seriously, what the actual fuck? Anyway, you run around a little more until you randomly decide to throw a motorcycle into a bar and get into a fight with Wolverine, because of course, you beat the shit out of him and then it's back to Spidey. As I previously mentioned, you have to complete a number of city events in order to continue progressing with the story, but you also need to complete other various tasks, like races around the city, which you can find scattered around the map as spinning circular icons, collecting tokens, and completing combat tours, in which you have to traverse the city, finding gangs and beating the living crap out of them. This would seem like a lot of time wasted on random things unrelated to the story, but the number of these events you have to complete in order to progress is not very high, so it's not as intrusive as it seems. After completing some events, you'll find yourself in a library with Mary Jane while the news are informing that Rhino is on the loose, so naturally, MJ tells you to go kick him in the dick.
Kick the Rhino guy in the ding-ding.
You then have to swing your way to the place of the commotion. However, you'll find some citizens in need along Rhino's path of destruction, so you have to stop to help them out. Once you finally find the Hornet Menace, the game introduces its most annoying trope, the chase. Not only with this boss, but every single boss in the game, you have to chase them down before you can actually fight them, with a bar in the upper part of the screen depicting how close or far you are from the enemy, and if they get too far from you, you have to start the chase over again. Rhino can only run and destroy stuff, so it's not a big deal chasing him around, but for some of the latter more mobile bosses, it is a pain in the ass. You then get to a point where Rhino wants to pick up a big container and throw it around, and you have to stop him. And I swear for the life of me, it took me quite a while to figure out what I had to do. Turns out, you have to position yourself behind him and press the X button to hang onto his back, and start punching him so that he drops the container, and then having him step over the wet cement in order to hit him with a wrecking ball. Then you chase him around some more until you can fight him in the parking lot. The strategy is to wait for an opening so you can climb onto his back and pummel his suit's weak spot until he goes down. I'm no expert, but I think he didn't kick him in the cock like Mary Jane suggested. That would have been way easier. After our encounter with Rhino, we take control of Venom again. This time, he's being chased by Silver Sable and her army of goons, so you have to run around the city taking down the mercs until you escape Silver Sable. Then we find out that the chunky guy is looking for Peter, who's casually visiting a museum with Mary Jane before his spider sense drives him mad due to the presence of Venom. So it's Spidey vs Venom, round 2. The fight is very straightforward. Just jump out of the way to avoid the attacks, don't let Venom grab you, and try to stun lock him as much as possible. After the fight, Silver Sable appears and shoots Venom from behind to take Brock back to the corporation headquarters, leaving Pete confused and angry. We then get a cutscene explaining that the symbiote suit was made using DNA from Peter's father, as a basis, and that's why his head wants to explode whenever Venom is close by. We do some more stuff around the city until it's time to go back to the chunky guy, who is being held captive by Trask, the head honcho of the company that made the symbiote suit, and Adrian Toomes, aka Vulture. They tell Brock that they need to test the suit, and that if it's not him, it will be somebody else. So eventually he agrees, and his task is to take down Electro. But you have to chase him down first, of course. Not only can he fly to his heart's content, meaning that he can be close to the ground one moment and then go up a skyscraper, so it can be quite frustrating trying to keep up with him, considering that Venom can't swing around using webs. But adding to this, Electro can also create big electric shock domes that send you flying away, so you gotta be careful when he stops moving. Once you catch up to him and you're getting ready for the battle, Spider-Man shows up and... man, I swear, I love the writing for this game.
Wait a second, are you fighting another superhero on the side? I thought you and me had something special. I bet it's Daredevil, isn't it? What does he have? Back off, kid!
Now you have to fight Electro to protect Spider-Man, just because Venom wants to be the one to defeat him. You have to be very careful not to let Electro hurt Spidey, or else it's game over. The first phase of the fight is simple. Just batter him around with your tentacles and be aware of the AoE electricity attack. However, once you drain his HP to a quarter, he'll fly away and buff himself with a Pepsi Blue sign and turn into Electric Dr. Manhattan, and the dynamic of the fight changes. You can't damage him anymore while in his blue state, so you have to throw cars at him in order to de-electrify him, and then you can attack him again. But it's highly recommended that you destroy all the electric billboards around the place, because if you damage him too much, he can just go and refill his health. It's also worth mentioning that you have to stay on your toes and looking around for people to feed, or else your health will slowly wither away even if you don't take damage from the fight. Once you beat Electro and turn him into an old man in his underwear, Venom is ready to kill Spidey when Nick Fury arrives with an army to stop Venom, but they just let him get away. Fury tries to talk to Peter, but he throws a temper tantrum and runs away. You go around the city doing events until you can continue with the story, and then you see a mysterious villain with a robotic suit getting into a lab containing... Hulk? Oh, never mind, this is Ultimate's version of Green Goblin. Spider-Man eventually sees him around, and guess what? We have to chase the fucker around the city. This is one of the most aggravating chases in the game, given that our friend likes to commit different crimes during the chase and you have to rescue some civilians, and if you fail, yes, that's right, back to the beginning and do it all over again. He also uses energy screens that can block your path and delay your chase. It's a good thing that the developers did such a good job with the web swinging and movement of the game, otherwise it would have been impossible to deal with the chase sequences in this game. We then arrive to a lab where the mysterious guy steals away a little tube containing the Sandman? Fun fact, this is never mentioned or referenced again in the game. The guy escapes, you chase him around a little bit until you get to the top of a building in construction for the boss fight. This fight sucks. The idiot just flies around all the time, only staying still to shoot energy orbs at you or do an AoE, so you can't wait for the chance to hit him. You have to swing and jump around in hopes of connecting a flying punch or kick. It takes quite some time, and when you lower his health to a quarter, the fucker just flies away and escapes like a little bitch. We are once again free to explore the city a bit more, and I have to say, swinging around these buildings at night really remind me of those half CGI scenes from the 90s series, which is always a plus in my book. There is a real charm on just swinging around the city without a care in the world. It is very relaxing and cathartic, but duty calls, and we find ourselves once again in control of Venom, who has gotten himself into a fight with Silver Sable once again. After beating her up for a while, she calls for backup, and it's you against her army again, but this time adding some very annoying helicopters that shoot at you and can drain your health very quickly. So you have to be careful and look for citizens to feed on while you destroy the helicopters and beat the soldiers. Venom eventually takes down the big ship, and then Silver Sable sets her sight on Peter. We get a cutscene of Peter talking to Mary Jane on the phone, discussing the guy in the robotic suit, while MJ is slithering around in her bed. For some reason, she invites our hero to a movie date, but Nick Fury seems to have other plans, so I guess no one is getting laid tonight. Guess MJ will have to take care of herself once more. Fury tells Peter to behave and stay out of this ordeal, but of course he does the exact opposite and goes to investigate, only to be immediately blown away by the Green Goblin. And that's our cue for yet another chase scene, one that is just very frustrating. Goblin moves extremely fast, only stopping to shoot 2 fireballs at you, and then jumps 1,000 miles ahead of you, so if you're not paying attention to the direction he moves towards, he will easily leave you behind and you will have to start the chase all over again. You'll eventually have to rescue some people from scaffolding, while the fucker shoots fireballs at you, and yes, he can interrupt your rescue attempts if you're not fast enough. The good thing is that now you're finally able to fight him and you don't have to chase him around anymore. You have to be very precise to dodge all of his attacks and beat him up when he's not surrounded by flames. Once you get him down to half health, he'll throw you into a building and you'll continue the battle there. His moveset in this second phase is actually simpler than the first one, since he doesn't shoot that many fireballs, instead jumping around a lot more. I'm gonna make it, I'm almost done. Oh, god damn it. Well, I guess I'll just have to do phase 2 again, right? You gotta be fucking kidding me. Important thing to keep in mind, don't let yourself get killed. Once you finally beat him, Fury's men come to take care of Osborn and... Oh, come on, it's daytime again? I loved how the city looked at night. By this point in the game, you shouldn't have to worry about tokens, races and combat tours if you had been doing them regularly, so it's just a matter of looking for city events to advance in the story. And guess what? Our robotic suit friend is back, and you have to chase him yet again, only this time using Venom, and even though you can't swing around, this chase is actually easier than the one with Spidey, and shorter too, which is appreciated. You eventually crash into a warehouse and fight him, and he's still a little bitch, flying around the place and being a nuisance to hit, but it's very satisfying finally beating the bastard. One interesting detail is that during the boss fight, your health doesn't deplete automatically, since you don't have citizens to consume during the fight. Very nice attention to detail. We then get fucking shot and kidnapped by Silver Sable, and after she tells us that she can just go ahead and get to everyone we know, Peter does the only sensible thing, beating the shit out of her. The fight causes a chaos on the bridge and you have to rescue some civilians, and there's this very funny part with the car that's going to fall to the river. Normally, there's only one person to rescue in these situations, but this time there are 2 people trapped inside the car, and if you're not paying attention to continue pressing the L and R buttons, this happens. After rescuing all the civilians, Silver Sable keeps shooting tranquilizing darts at you, and I mean, by this point, Peter should be higher than a philosophy student, but then Venom comes out of nowhere and absolutely wrecks Sable, no, not that one, and takes her away, and now you have to chase him around. I'm not gonna lie, this is by far the worst chase in the entire game. Venom goes really fucking high atop these buildings, and believe me, if you don't know his route by heart or have cat-like reflexes, you're gonna fail this chase. A lot. Once you finally catch up to him, a fight ensues to make sure that he doesn't rip Silver Sable to shreds, and at least if you die in this fight, you don't have to repeat the chase. Just stun lock the fuck out of him and Spider-Man will finally pass out due to the gallons of tranquilizer in his veins, allowing Silver Sable to take both Brock and Peter to Trask's headquarters. We then get a cutscene of Mr. Chunky waking up to Peter's screams of pain from apparent experimentation, and then we see Carnage in his absolute fleshy glory. Wait, can Peter be Carnage in this timeline?
This is indeed a disturbing universe.
Anyway, we start a brutal fight between symbiotes in the lab, and once you drain Carnage's health enough, he'll just run away and start to recover, so you gotta make sure to catch him first. Oh, and also make sure to feed on security guards so that you don't die. It seems overwhelming, but if you time it right, you can feed while Carnage is stunned before he gets up again. We then see Brock consuming the symbiote out of Peter and gaining total control of the Venom suit, and he heads off immediately to kill Trask, who tries to escape in a helicopter. He doesn't even know how to fly. And so, we come to the final fight of the game. Spider-Man vs. Venom, round 3. This time is personal. You have to stop Venom from throwing the helicopter off the building, and avoiding his attacks in this position is a bit awkward, given that if you jump, you get smacked by the helicopter's helixes. There's also the issue with the fire that is spreading on the roof as the fight progresses, but with good timing and positioning, this fight shouldn't represent any problem, and the spectacle of it's quite nice. After the fight, we get the final cutscene. We find out that it was Brock's father who decided not to destroy the symbiote, and this caused Peter's parents' deaths in the plane crash. We also see that Brock disappeared after the fight, because he went straight to prison looking for Trask to get his revenge, and this time around he actually kills him. And the last thing we see are Peter and MJ enjoying a nice rooftop conversation in the sunset. And that's Ultimate Spider-Man for you. At least the main story. Once you beat the game, you unlock Venom as a playable character in any moment you want to switch out, and the entire city is now unlocked for you to collect all the tokens, beat all the races, do all the combat tours, and complete all the city events at your own pace. So, what do I think about the game? It's pretty fucking fun, despite some flaws. The combat is nothing to write home about, especially the lack of a dodge button, but it serves its purpose. The missions and the secondary objectives are varied and take advantage of how fun it is just to swing around the city, enjoying the view at night or jumping around during the day. Overall, this is a great game to relax and calm your eagerness for 19 inches. If you don't own a PS5, a very underrated game in my professional doctor opinion. That will be all for today, my dear patients. Have you played Ultimate Spider-Man before? Is there any other friendly neighbor game that you think deserves more attention? Let me know in the comments below. And remember, one game a day keeps the plague doctor away. Well, I think the potion is now ready. Let's take a sip and... I don't feel any different. I can feel the power coming.